really care what he said. I know Gaijin does things and says things and they don't make
Imagine
any
they
sense.
drop it like this, people grind it, and then like 3 days later they nerf it.
That'd be hilarious, dude.
Alright everybody, welcome back. So I know I'm a little bit late to the Gripen party, but because of this, I get to cover it after it got its flight model nerf, which I was expecting, but not this soon. And to be honest, I'm a little bit peeved with Gaijin over this, because there's two outcomes for what exactly happened here. So first of all, this is on purpose, which is, I was memeing about in the stream, but I may have actually been on the money here. There's a chance that they decided to go ahead and drop it overperforming like it was, and then nerf it immediately afterwards after people golden eagled it on patch day to get more money. And I'm hoping that's not actually the case. Or the more likely outcome is just that they dropped the patch way too early, and they needed to go ahead and do some more dev server and actually test it before it came to live, which I think is most likely what happened. They've also had to nerf the F-15's low speed turn and buff the SE-27 as well, and all of this could have been avoided if they just, I don't know, did one more dev server and waited another week before pushing the patch. But I digress. Now, to be honest, the flight model nerf didn't really affect the Gripen that badly, so it is definitely much worse than it was before when it comes to the sustained dogfights at those lower speeds. But to be honest, the way that you really wanted to play the Gripen before was going at high altitude and coming down and raining aim-9Ms on them from above, like you saw I did just right there, and I already collected plenty of kills without even needing any of that turning performance. Although, of course, in this case, I did get sucked into a sustained dogfight, and so now that sustained turn nerf is really going to bite me in the butt. Because especially once you drop below 800 kilometers an hour, take a look at my airspeed. It is going to drastically lower. Now, I do go ahead and get this missile off right here. I didn't realize that there was another F-16 behind me, and I'm going to eat an AIM-9M here in a second. But you saw right there, my speed was dropping very, very fast once I got below around 800 kilometers an hour or so, and it just really doesn't have that thrust-to-weight ratio that you need to actually keep yourself up in the air. Now, of course, like I said, this is how you really want to play the Gripen anyway, so it's not a major concern. You just come in from above them, they're all distracted engaging people, and I'm firing 9M side aspect at them with HMD, and I'm just going to collect some free kills right here. There's going to be a lot of games where if you get good with your positioning, you're just going to wind up with 3, 4, 5, sometimes even 6 kills, because side aspect, these things are very difficult to flare. Now, of course, they're not impossible, and my biggest gripe with them actually has been the fact that, for some reason, AIM-9Ms are not killing this patch. They will give you a crit, and they'll get set on fire, and then somebody else will steal the kill, and it happens constantly. And it has been incredibly annoying, because I will get several crits, and then I'll get a bunch of assists with them, and I'm like, this is a missile. But beside the point, if you do actually have to get into a dogfight with somebody, your best bet is going to be keeping it to the higher speeds. You know, think of it kind of like an F5C, right? That's the best way I could describe it. It has good energy retention at higher speeds, but once it drops below a certain threshold, it has a very hard time getting it back and actually, you know, keeping itself up in the air. The Gripen is no longer the UFO that it was, and I'm 95% sure it almost certainly loses to the F-16C now, let alone the F-16A in a sustained dogfight at those lower speeds. Now, of course, an actual ARB, that's not really going to matter most of the time, and it is still a very competent flight model. It is still one of the better flight models at top tier, and it is also in a rat plane with 700 plus countermeasures and 6 AIM-9Ms and an HMD. It is still incredibly competent, and sure, it's not the UFO that it was before, but it is still going to be fun to play. It is missing a little bit of AOA, so if anybody has some actually like good sources that we can use to get that fixed, that'd be great. In testing, it actually got up to 110 degrees AOA, and I think that'd be a really interesting thing to implement in game, because right now it just kind of doesn't. My understanding of how the Gripen's like flight control system works is that it has like different stages with different amounts of AOA, and so Gaijin is most likely modeling that first stage that doesn't pull as hard, but I don't know about y'all, but I think it'd be pretty interesting to have a, you know, one of these Delta canards that can pull an absolutely absurd amount of AOA. Now, coming up, this is a perfect example of what I was talking about. You can see I'm not losing much speed as long as I keep it in, you know, the higher echelons, you know, above Mach or so. But I am going to go into a 2v1 here against an F4S and an F14, and then I decide to go ahead and dump my speed. And you just watch that speed taking down. I go in the vertical, you are bleeding a lot more speed than before, and to be honest, I should probably get an H crew in this thing anyways, just because I am blacking out hard. Now, of course, it is still more than enough to whip inside pretty much every other top tier jet in a one circle engagement. and I get to collect 2 free kills. And the gun, for me, has been hit or miss. So it worked really well against both those planes right there, but I've also had plenty of cases where I will spray into somebody, get tons of hits, and it just decides to just not work. Overall, I would say it's probably a good gun. I don't know what's going on with it and why the damage has been so unreliable for me. Just the combination of, 9Ms critting constantly and the gun also deciding that just randomly doesn't want to do damage has made ratting in this thing not quite as fun as it should have been. So I do make a mistake here and I go vertical to go back around for this MiG-23, which lets me get the kill, but what I don't realize is that the spotting system sucks. And so there's both an F-14B right there 4 kilometers away in front of me that just now got spotted, and I'm going to drain even more speed dodging him. And then me bleeding all that speed doesn't matter anyways, because now I'm going 400 kilometers an hour and he's hit a ridge. And there's even more unspotted people that are about to show up in front of me here in a second. So I get launched on by an F-14. That is my first indication of one 2 kilometers away. I really think there needs to be some kind of a dedicated range for jets that you actually get spotted at, because, the 8 kilometers or whatever from props really isn't enough with how fast these jets are going, with how much engagement range you have. So this will take me out of the fight after 2 more come in that were also unspotted. Still an overall very fun engagement, and on these rare down tiers that you will get, the Gripen is going to absolutely have a field day. But of course, so will the F-15 and the SC-27. All of these jets need to go up in BR. I have no idea why they're here. So, for those of y'all who are Swedish ground players and really needed some CAS, well, now you're in luck. So the Gripen gets access to 2 types of ordnance, and this is all you're going to get on the next Gripen as well, the Gripen C, when that comes next patch, where it gets laser-guided bombs and Mavericks. To be honest, I'm not sure why this Gripen A has the targeting pod and the paveways, because that was a Gripen C thing, but I'm just not going to question it, and we're just going to roll with it for now. So you get access to 3 different types of paveways. I'm using the GBU-12s and GBU-24s personally. This is one of the GBU-24s right here. You can see you can lob them from very far away, and they will track a laser sometimes. I'm going to be honest with y'all, 3 of mine failed this game. This is the only one that actually got to work. I'm not sure what causes them to fail or not, but when they do work, they are very effective, and it is great, especially because the Mavericks don't actually work at night. So if you are playing night battles trying to get those, decals or whatever, they're going to have to run those. Now, speaking of, I said this thing has the Mavericks. These are B Mavericks, and so, of course, these are less reliable than the Ds, and they also don't work at night or in bad weather. So that Maverick right there, I'm really not sure what just happened. It just flew off in the Narnia and exploded, so I had to come back in to re-engage this pants here. And yeah, that was a missile that just flew right by me. I got incredibly lucky right there. So I'm going to go ahead and lob another one of these Mavs off. In case you didn't know, they buffed Mavs recently. They actually loft now, so you can engage from much further away than you used to. The B Mavs have a much closer, actual lock range on the targets. I want to say it's around 4 to 5 kilometers compared to the D Mavs, but if it's a stationary Pantsir, then it doesn't really matter. You can just lock the ground near him, and it's just going to track anyways. From my limited experience, I've had the best luck with Mavericks personally, with how slow both Mavs and Paveways are. And I also like being able to engage SAMs and turn away to actually defend. And this Pantsir is just completely oblivious as it's about to hit him. The Paveways, of course, are also really good. I just personally have a much harder time actually evading SAMs while I'm trying to keep the laser on somebody for the the Paveway to actually track in. So me personally, with how often I die to SAMs, I would rather just bring the Mavericks, be able to do seed that way and not have to worry. Overall, after the nerf, it's kind of what I was expecting. A little bit more agile, but worse turning F-16 essentially. Still a good plane and a whole lot better than any of the Viggens that Sweden got before. So you Swedish and British mains, you don't have to be hoping about the Gripen getting nerfed. It's still a completely viable plane. Just try and avoid getting to those lower sustained turn speeds. By the way, if you did enjoy the video, I'd greatly appreciate if you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I'm shooting to try and get to 15,000 subscribers, preferably by the end of the year if possible, but I know that's probably not going to happen at this point. In any case, hope y'all enjoyed the video. I'll catch y'all next time, so peace, y'all.